Thank you very much to our wonderful Columbus Symphony musicians. I am really gratified to see so many of our friends out here today. My name is Ross Bridgman. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, and I've been the chairman of the Development Committee for the last 4 years. The endowment program comes within my purview. All of you are aware that we have been in the midst of an endowment campaign for the last year. We had our first meeting last year. 3 years ago, we partnered with the Columbus Foundation. Angela Parsons is here today, and she will be speaking with us about the Columbus Foundation and their efforts on our behalf during this program. But it has been an extraordinary year. And just how extraordinary it has been, you will hear about during this program. You will hear from Rossen Milanoff, our wonderful artistic director. You will hear from Carl Peterson, one of our wonderful musicians, and others about what has been going on. Another major purpose of the meeting today is to honor people who have made gifts to sustain the legacy of the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, the legacy which is so very important to this community and to us. Most of the people, almost all of the people here today, have made unbelievable contributions to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra for many years. In a few minutes, you're going to see a video which will take you back to the very beginnings of the Columbus Symphony Orchestra and will demonstrate to you the power of giving. The symphony has been in existence for almost 70 years. The people who established the symphony back in the early days, in the early 50s, actually long before that, had a vision and had a dream. And with their work and with their treasure and with their love, we have an orchestra today. So why don't we take a look at this masterpiece? And oh, by the way, the person who produced it is sitting right here in the front row, Michael Malone. It's just wonderful. If the hair doesn't stand up on your arms, then you don't have a soul in you. Wait till you see this.
On May 6, 1951, a free concert was given at the Ohio State Archaeological and Historical Museum, specifically for the Women's Committee of the former Columbus Philharmonic. The Philharmonic had disbanded in 1949, unable to meet its $18,000 deficit. But for 2 years, the 500 members of the Women's Committee had continued to fundraise without an orchestra. They held card parties, fashion shows, teas, and other events in the hope of raising enough money to form a new orchestra with local musicians. Since 1924, the Symphony Club of Central Ohio had been importing major orchestras for 2 concerts each year. In 1950, there were approximately 600 orchestras in the United States, and yet none belonged to Columbus. Following the free concert of the previous spring, the Women's Committee voted to permanently establish a new orchestra. And on November 11, 1951, on an initial gift of $7,000, the 28 musicians of the newly founded Columbus Little Symphony played their first concert at Central High School Auditorium under George Hardesty. By 1955, the group had grown to 38 members. They dropped the little from their name and became, simply, the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. A gift is a powerful thing. It creates possibilities. It anticipates the future. A gift honors artistry. It celebrates excellence and empowers the imagination. A gift sustains. A gift nourishes. A gift creates opportunities. And brings a community together. It attracts great artists and enables collaboration. A gift helps secure the future, inspired by the dream of having our orchestra in our community.
There are a lot of people who have donated their time and treasure to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra over the last 70 years. And one of the most important and significant was Ann Melvin. And today we're here to remember Ann and the innumerable gifts that she gave to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra during her long life. She was involved with the Symphony Orchestra for her entire adult life. She served as librarian for the Symphony Orchestra. She participated avidly and intricately in the affairs of the orchestra for many, many years. Today, we're honored to have two of Ann's very best friends with us, Jack and Joan George, who would like to say something about Ann and about the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. Joan and Jack George.
Good afternoon, I'm Joan George. We moved to Columbus in 1966, and once we got past the babysitting years, we got to going to the symphony and became modest supporters. And then we met Ann Melvin, who took us in hand approximately the same way a Marine drill instructor takes a recruit in hand. And she told us how we could do better for the symphony. Ann left us almost a year ago now, but she had told us how after a serious accident she decided she wanted to do something exceptional with her life, and that was to help the Columbus Symphony. And so we decided that we could do nothing better than to follow Anne's example and make a pledge to the endowment fund. It's written into our wills. It'll be completed whether or not we're still here 6 years from now to finish it. The endowment fund is absolutely crucial to the symphony. It provides a basement of support in spite of the apparently inevitable ups and downs of the economy. In a city this size, with an orchestra this fine, and a level of education here, the symphony should have a much better endowment than it presently enjoys. And I hope all of us will work to do something like Anne has done and provide the endowment fund for the future. So here's to our fine symphony, to the endowment fund, to the future, and to Anne Melvin, may God rest her soul. Thank you.
Greetings and welcome. My name is Carl Peterson. I'm the principal violist with the Columbus Symphony. As we join here to celebrate Anne's life, gift, and the endowment, I'd like to take a step back and remember 2 years ago when Anne was up on this very stage. She was talking to you about Steve Jobs and how much she appreciated both his passion and his leadership. She admired Jobs so much that she loaned me a copy of the Walter Isaacson biography of him to me. Fortunately, this was a book on tape. But those were two of the personality traits that seemed to delight her the most: passion and leadership. With her as a friend and mentor, I found us discussing leadership at Panera one afternoon. 6 years ago, I told her I had never been a musician who had craved that principal chair. She helped me understand what it meant to be a leader and encouraged me to think and act in ways that were natural for me. I now realize the many responsibilities of both a principal violist in the orchestra and a musician representative on the CSO board. I find these additional responsibilities bring more joy and satisfaction than had I not been so active. But perhaps even more than discussing our own opinions on what constituted good leadership, she loved asking me what I was most passionate about. Her favorite composer was Brahms, and she had a poem regarding him that she loved sharing. We would discuss the symphonies we enjoyed in length and the contemporary pieces we didn't in even greater length. She taught me that speaking passionately and with love about something was one of the best ways to encourage support. The musicians of the CSO would not be in Columbus without our strong donor base. We appreciate everyone who makes it possible for us to perform here professionally. Even those who just buy a ticket and show up to a concert with a smile contribute to us being successful. As we take time to honor Anne's life and gift, I want you to remember her passion for the CSO, but also anything else that made her eyes twinkle and caused her to burst into action. I also want you to remember her leadership to both the community on the whole and the CSO. Anne saw it her responsibility to Columbus to leave it in better shape than she found it. She valued leaving an impact here because it was the city and orchestra she loved. In closing, I'd like to use Anne's own words from an email. Having worked with you all over the years makes it feel as though we are part of a family, one that I'm so proud to feel somewhat included in. I feel as though I live in two worlds: the real world, where I am every day, and the orchestra world, where I feel my soul is, but where I can only drop in occasionally. The chances to do so are the highlights that brighten the real world. I hope Anne's passion can find a way to motivate us all. I wouldn't be here talking to you right now if it weren't for people like Anne and for people like you. Thank you all very much for all that you do. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Rostin Moenoff, our fearless leader.
A very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for joining us on this very special occasion. I remember 2 years ago when we started the conversation about opening that endowment to a phase which will include you, of course, as our most important supporters, and the people that are still out there that are to hear about our symphony. We didn't even dream that at this moment we could come up with such exciting results and with so many people that passionately feel the need to support us, not only today, but also in the years to come. And certainly our dear friend, Anne Melvin, is a fantastic example of how this could be done. And, but most importantly, I know that everyone here in this room is going to try to follow her footsteps in their own way. And what worked for Anne Melvin worked for her, because she was a person that I don't think that she loved her family, but very close second to her family were all the musicians of the orchestra. And Carl was one of them. I was fortunate to be one of them. I unfortunately spent only about a year and a half here in Columbus, but we did have some wonderful conversations, and I have part of her soul at my place because she insisted that I keep her piano when she moved to the facility down close to where I live. And she said, I want you to have that because you are a musician, you are going to be living here, and I want you to put it in your living room. And that will remind you of me. And little that I knew that the next time, that was the last conversation we had with her, as if she already knew that this had to be done exactly at that moment. And but now we are to find out that she actually did something even more than that, and to secure the future of this organization. And for those of you that want to know why the symphony and why we are the chosen one, I would like to tell you how I feel about what this gift is going to make for us, and most importantly for the people that we touch on a daily basis. So I think that this gift is going to give us goosebumps every time when we leave the concert hall after a concert. This gift is going to make us feel uplifted that we have found a new point of view of our lives, that we have found a source of hope, that we have consoled many people that needed consolation through music, that we have brought a lot of optimism to people that needed goodness to transcend the confinement of their daily lives sometimes. That was something that could make them feel as they're part of something bigger, universal, that was passed along centuries through the history of the humanity. People would feel that this gift would also create ideals, particularly in our time of shifts, when many ideals are in danger of being completely shattered. I think that there is nothing more valuable than holding the hand of a person that belongs to the next generation and telling them that the world for them is going to be better than the world is for their parents or for us. We cherish that because we, on our end, have the same dedication, because in our daily life we work on perfecting every single note. We work on perfecting every single phrase, so we could think about the music as one person. Every dynamic shade that you hear at that concert is not something that happens by accident. This is something that we put a lot of thought and preparation in it. And so with the only reason that we could pass the powerful voice of the composers that have created this work, so we could share them together. Because this is what the history of the humanity is. It's not that war or the other war or what was the GDP of a particular country. It's what we have done to further the development of the human beings as, as, as something that has always moved forward. So we could have Leonardo da Vinci's, we could have Igor Stravinsky's, we could have Leonard Bernstein's, and we could have people that bring their art alive. Because if the music is locked in a score, in a book, that no one could read unless you're a musician, it's the same thing as if you buy a book that you keep on your bookshelf and you never really have opened it. So we are the revivers and we are the keepers at the same time. And we are the people that take care of the emotional needs of everyone that we touch. So I think this is what this gift is going to do for us. And we hope that with your participation, we could make Columbus absolutely proud of our orchestra and, most importantly, of the impact that we could have on the human lives of the community that we reach. So thank you so much for I know that you follow Anne's steps, and thank you so much for making actually our life meaningful and with a purpose. We love you, and we perform for you with our hearts every time when we are on the various stages that we present ourselves here. Thank you. Now you're going to hear from the Executive Director of the Columbus Symphony, Denise Rigg.
Thank you so much, Rostin. Before I say anything else, though, I would like to just tell you that we have been hard at work on this, and we were working with Anne. There was nobody more instrumental in that process than the head of the Development Committee, Ross Bridgman. I actually want Ross to come up here to actually give you the number of the size of the gift Anne Melvin left us, because he deserves that. Come on up, Ross.
Let me preface this by saying how very, very touched I am by all of you being here, and Ross's remarks and Carl's remarks. It's just overwhelming to me. Anne's $8 million gift will go a very, very long way to sustaining the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. Let me also, I said $8 million. $8 million. It is really extraordinary. We really began this campaign a year ago, this time. And in that year, we have raised almost $11 million. So that is pretty extraordinary. That brings our total now. And when I took over, and this doesn't have anything to do with me, because it has to do with you and the members of our committee and our board of trustees and Lisa Barton and people like Dale Heidloff, who we'll be talking about in a moment. But we now have $12.8 million from $700,000 in 2014. So that's a pretty good start. Our goal, our intermediate goal, is $25 million. And we want to get that done in pretty short order. And by that I mean 1, 2, 3 years. Our goal is $50 million. $50 million may sound like a lot, but for a symphony our size, it's actually not. Buffalo and other cities like Columbus, actually smaller than Columbus, have endowments of that size. And of course, our sister cities in Cleveland and Cincinnati have endowments well into the hundreds of millions of dollars. So this is a goal, and we will get there, come heck or high water. Thank you.
No, thank you, Ross. Yeah, I agree. So I went a little out of order there, but it was so important actually for my part for Ross to have the opportunity to say that. Because what I want to talk to you today about is why an endowment is so important to us. So we have some unique situations here in Columbus, things I think have made us in some respects stronger. But I want to start by talking about our musicians. So Dave Thomas is sitting over there. I want you to know that David Thomas, our principal clarinetist, is sitting there not as a musician, but as a donor to our legacy campaign. So these musicians have been really willing to work hard for the community and to do the right thing with the community. The other thing I want to tell you about why we need this endowment is because those very same musicians who we cut, back in the year, more than a decade ago, in terms of the number of weeks they work, agreed 3 years ago to go without a wage increase for 3 years, while we worked to raise the endowment money. So, when I say we have unique circumstances in this community, part of that unique circumstances is the composition, the makeup, the personalities, the commitment of our musicians. So, just for a moment, I want us to give them a round of applause because they're here. It is virtually unheard of that in the process of a collective bargaining agreement, musicians would agree to a 3-year wage freeze. So thank you so much. So if that's not enough, I also want to talk about our city. So we are now the 14th largest city. In almost every community with a strong artistic backbone, the Symphony is the one that leads that community. I mean, you cannot have a ballet unless it's going to only dance to canned music. That can be its optimum. You cannot have an opera unless you have a symphony performing for them, both of which we do. We have performed for both of them. It is just critically important if we want to be recognized, and we work so hard as a community, and we deserve to be recognized as more than a corn town. We are not a corn town, but the vast majority of the world out there still sees us that way. And we, I think, still carry that around on our backs a little bit. We need to get rid of it. We need to get rid of it, and we need to invest in our cultural asset with the Symphony in the lead to lead this community into where it belongs, which is the 14th largest, smartest community in the nation. So thanks, Pauline. We've got a lot of champions in this room. I'm totally singing to the choir here, so it's really easy. But if that is not enough reason, let me also talk to you about what the Symphony does for all of us in terms of our humanity. So I frequently say that part of the issue with what's going on in the world right now is people didn't have enough music in their life. They didn't have enough symphony. They didn't have enough of the connection not only to the music, but the music is really about a connection to ourselves and about who we are as people and about who we're sitting next to. I mean, they've done so many studies. In 2006, the National Symphony went to China, and they interviewed the Chinese after we had been there. Of course, they weren't our biggest fans beforehand, but you know what they said when they came out of the hall? Well, you can't be all bad in America because you've got that. So it's an amazing bridger of the very things we need most right now. So what we want to do and what we're trying to do, and Ross is absolutely right. Look, if Buffalo can have a $50 million endowment, so can we. So what we're asking people to do is, if you have signed up for the Legacy program, we want to convert you into the new campaign. So we're actually going to be recognizing the people in the current campaign. There are some of you in here who are in the old Legacy program. We're going to come and see you and ask you to fill out a different form. And you're all going to receive, and we want you to wear it proudly, something that Ross is handing out today. When you exit, there will be a pamphlet of information for you to take with you. We are happy to take calls. We're happy to hear your stories. We'd like to, throughout the campaign, so we're calling it Music Inspired is our current theme. So it's Music Inspired, Future Inspired. So that is the campaign, Music Inspired, Future Inspired. Thanks, Mike. Did I do that out of order? Am I good? Okay. So he's ready. He is amazing. But anyway, it makes the rest of us look so smart. So that is what we're working to do. That's what we're hoping to do. We're there to help, and I am so happy that Angela Parsons has been able to join us today. So for those of you who know, Ross spent an enormous amount of time. We are so lucky that he retired when he retired, because he has been spending all his time on the Symphony. But he is the one who created the accounts over here at the Columbus Foundation. We made a very judicious decision to put the money here at the Columbus Foundation and to tie it up in such a fashion that we could not ultimately, many of you remember, we had an endowment once, so that we could not do that again. So we are really dedicated and committed to a bright and new future. Angela came today. She's going to tell you about what's going on with us, and she's also going to tell you that she is here to help you all should you decide you want to do something. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Angela, and thanks, Angel.
So my name's Angela Parsons, and I'm the Vice President for Donor Services and Development here at the Columbus Foundation. And I have had the honor to work with Ross and Denise and many of the donors to the Symphony, the principal one being Ann Melvin. So it's been a joy to work with you guys. I also want to say that there are a lot of organizations that have endowments, but there are not a lot of organizations that have made the commitment, especially when the organization set it up, to make sure it's a permanent endowment. And that is one of the things that the Symphony has done. And I just really want to commend them for it because it's really important. So it's really important to know that since we started working with them in 2014, they now have 6 different endowment funds. And so each of those endowment funds has a different purpose. Was maybe set up by a different donor. Well, the ultimate donor is the Symphony, but a different donor that made that gift to them. And 3 of those funds, and the majority of that money, is all permanently endowed. So the income will go to the Symphony in perpetuity. The Symphony's been around now, 70 years? The foundation this year, at the end of this year, will be around 75 years. So you have 2 really long-lasting organizations that are going to be here to make sure each other lives on. And the other thing is about those funds. One of the funds is specific for new compositions. So that's very cool. You know there'll be new things. Ann made her $8 million commitment, and that's going to be pretty much a general endowment that the Symphony can use. But before that, she also set up a couple of other endowments, one of which she knew that she was a huge donor to the Symphony, and she knew her annual gift, losing that would be, important. So, during her life, she set up a fund that over the next 3 years will distribute to the Symphony so that it can cover for her gift until her endowment starts putting off the income that can help keep it going. So she was such a thoughtful lady. The other thing is she loved the musicians being out in the community. She loved when the musicians could be at various events playing their music, being that inspiration. So she also did the outreach fund, the CSO Musicians Outreach Fund, to help get those musicians into the community. So, and of course, finally, we have the 2 endowments that the Symphony themselves set up. One for special needs, not those that, things that come up, that they know they have that in the background that they can use, and then the permanent endowment that will be there, forever. So we are here to be their backroom support. I have a team of individuals. Myself, we are, recovering attorneys, as I like to say. So while we don't draft documents for you, we're really happy to meet with you, work with you, see how you might want to leave your own legacy to support the Symphony. So thank you so much. And I think Ross is coming back up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Angela. Really, one of the many reasons that the fit between the Columbus Foundation and the Columbus Symphony Orchestra is so ideal is that the Columbus Foundation is so cooperative and so helpful. And in terms of helping individuals, I know they've worked with Ann, they've worked with other of our donors for endless hours trying to figure out what is the best philanthropic gift that they can give for their own personal needs. And we don't have to duplicate that. That is something that is costly to do. And the fact that the Columbus Foundation offers those services to us is a big reason that we have partnered with them. So when you look at your little folder today, you're going to get one. This is I'm putting on my development hat now, my endowment hat. You're going to get a folder, and in that folder are going to be little leaflets that explained a lot of the different ways you can make gifts. Planned giving, testamentary gifts, all sorts of ways to do that. You need to look at that and think about that. But don't get baffled. Don't look at it and go, I don't understand all this, and so therefore I'm not going to do anything. When you have questions, you can call Denise. She'll always take your call. Or you can call Angela directly and say, I'd like to make an endowment gift to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, and I need to know how to do that. Now, part of our program today is to honor those people who have renewed in the last year their legacy commitment. There are many here today who are on the legacy, who are legacy donors. And as Denise indicated to you, we will be to you fairly soon to see whether you will renew your commitment and enhance your commitment to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. But there are many here today who have renewed that commitment, and there are those also that aren't here today that did so similarly, but we're going to honor with pins today those who did. So now I'm going to begin to distribute the pins as soon as I find my list. The first on our list is Lois Allen. Please come up, Lois. Get your pin. Lois. Lois has been a committed supporter of the symphony from the very first moment. So how many now?
I went to the first 3 concerts.
There you go. I knew. And Lois, you know, has donated to the gala. She has a home that she auctions off. She's been so important. I'm going to talk about Pauline Fritz in a minute, but whenever Pauline has a tea for the ladies and I go to talk about the endowment, Lois is always there. And so we really are grateful to you.
Thank you very much.
And here is your lovely pen.
Just shake your hand.
Thank you.
What you do.
Oh, thank you. Next, AEP Dale Heidloff. I'm proud to say that I've known Dale for a fairly long time. He and I were on the Boy Scout board together years and years and years ago. But AEP is such a valued supporter of the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. As you know, Lisa Barton, our chairperson, is a vice president of AEP and so valuable to us. She is an extraordinary person. Her dedication to us, I think it exceeds sometimes her ability to give us the time, but she always does. And Dale is here because AEP magnanimously is the first corporate donor to our endowment campaign. We are so blessed and honored that you and your organization would contribute to our endowment. Thank you so much. Would you like to say anything?
If you don't know my job, I am the Senior Vice President for Corporate Communications, but also President of our philanthropic foundation. And I don't think there's a nonprofit I meet with that I don't talk about the importance of having a strong endowment. It is the only effective pathway to financial sustainability of any organization, especially critical for the arts. And so I thank you very much for taking this step to build it, make it strong, make it permanent. Is extraordinarily important. I do want to give all the credit for this to Lisa. She lobbied me. I had to lobby the board because she's not on our foundation board. But it was an easy sell because we all recognize the passion and energy and sweat that Lisa puts into her service to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. And we all, as leaders of our corporation, understand the critical importance of a vibrant and healthy symphony to the cultural health and vitality of this community. So thank you all very, very much for being supporters.
Thank you very much, Dale. Next are two people that we'll just not mention.
It's Ross and Pat Bridgman. Pat, come on up. Ross might want to do that, but I'm going to flex my executive position and say, here you go, Ross. Thank you so much. Pat, thank you so much.
Thank you. The Reverend Earl and Pauline Fritz. Oh, there we go. Come on. Pauline was asked, I think 2 years ago.
Not quite.
Not quite, but close, by Ross and Milanoff. He said, why don't you organize the auxiliaries to press the endowment issue? And Pauline thought, well, by golly, maybe that's what I should do. And ever since, she has been tireless in her efforts. And poor Earl, he has had his home disrupted on I don't know how many teas, 5, 6, 7 of them, where she has opened her house, her lovely house that Earl built and had wonderful stained glass windows, so that she could sell the idea of a permanent endowment for the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. She also takes time out to attend our development committee meetings, and her contributions are enormous. So this is for Earl and Pauline. Thank you both so much. Jack and Joan George, please come up. I must tell you, I was extremely touched by Joan's remarks. They were just beautiful in tribute to Anne. And you just don't understand how important the Georges have been to us for many, many years. Their contributions to our annual fund have been significant, and their commitment to the endowment is significant. And I hope you all will take a page out of Anne and Jack and George's book when you think about the endowment campaign. So thank you very much, Joan and Jack. Thank you very much. Marilyn Harris. Marilyn is another person that has been on the board forever. But she's also a member of the development committee, and so I have had the opportunity to work very closely with Marilyn for at least the last 4 years. And Marilyn is an extraordinary individual. Her husband, Donald, was very, very important to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. There is, in fact, the Donald Harris Fund for New Compositions, which has now been established with the Columbus Foundation. So if you're interested in new contributions, think about that. But Marilyn has been a strong advocate in the community for the Columbus Symphony. She has been a tireless worker over many years for the Columbus Symphony, and she also serves a bit of our conscience. She kind of goads us when we need to be goaded and urges us on to bigger and better heights. So she has been very, very important to us. Thank you. Thank you very much. Douglas and Darlene Jones. Jones is not here.
Oh, Doug is here.
Oh, there he comes. There, Douglas is here. Douglas and Darlene have been long-time supporters of the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, and they have been long-time supporters of all of the arts in Columbus. And we are sincerely grateful, Douglas, for all that you have done for the symphony in the past and all that you do for the arts in Columbus. Thank you very much. You know, I'm handing out these pins. We hope that you will wear these pins with pride. So when you get them, come to the symphony and put your pins on so we all know who you are. Larry and Kathy Mead, and I think Kathy is going to be the representative. Probably one of the greatest pleasures I've had is getting to know Kathy and Larry over the last few years. Kathy was on the board and then off the board, and she's come back kind of like a phoenix rising from the ashes. She is on the development committee, and she helps with the gala, and she just does an awful lot of stuff for the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. She is a wise person, a thoughtful person, an imaginative person. She's a pleasure to work with. She's very valuable on the committee, and so we're just really, really grateful to you and for your renewed commitment to our endowment campaign. So thank you very much. It's a pin for Larry. Gay Sue Pinnell. Oh, she had to leave. Well, you know what? I got to talk about Gay, even though she's left. I had lunch with Gay Sue Pinnell. One of our former board members, Johanna DiStefano, recommended that Gay Sue come on our board about 3 years ago. And I had lunch with Gay Sue about that time and talked with her about the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. And at that time, she decided that she was going to work with the CSOL, which she does. And in fact, she's having a party at her house on December 17th. And a lot of us are going to go and have a good time and sing Christmas carols and do all that kind of stuff. So everybody who's with the women associations, thank you very much. We also have women's auxiliary folks here today, and I know them, and they sold all of their pecans and walnuts at the holiday pops, and the proceeds going to us, and we're so grateful for that. But Gay Sue became interested, more interested, and finally decided that she wanted to be on our board. And what a valuable member of our board she has become. She has become an enthusiastic supporter of the Columbus Symphony Orchestra and a major contributor. And we are so grateful to her, and we'll give her her pin when we see her. She was here earlier today. She told me that she had just flown back from Dubai, and she was suffering a little bit from jet lag, and heck, had it been me, I'd be home in bed. George and Patricia Smith. It would be hard to find two people who are more loyal and committed to the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. They appear virtually every Friday night in the loge, come rain, come shine, come dark of night, to listen to the Symphony Orchestra. We are so blessed to have them as supporters and long-term supporters of the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, and we are so grateful to your commitment to the Legacy Society.
And we're grateful to the orchestra. We love the orchestra so much.
Patricia says, we love the orchestra so much, and we're grateful to them, as we all are. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you. David and Rachel Timmons. David is a former board member and has raised enormous funds for the Columbus Symphony Orchestra over the years, and for that, when you look at the video today of the early years and the people upon whose shoulders we stand today, David Timmons is one of those people. And so let's give him a round of applause and thank him for what he has done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And here's one. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, now comes, blessedly, I think probably, you won't need to listen to me anymore, the conclusion of our presentation today. I think I've basically said everything I want to say. We've mentioned how far we have come in the last couple of years with respect to endowment. We've talked about how valuable Mike Malone is. You know, Mike did this video, but he's also on the development committee and sings in the chorus with me. There are just so many people who give so much to our organization. I also want to thank our new executive director. One of the things that people need to understand is that, and if you look at the press release that we issued today, Ann was not a big believer in endowment. She had to come to that conclusion. And that was a process that lasted over 3 to 4 years as she began to understand that sustaining the legacy of the Columbus Symphony Orchestra, yes, annual donations were important. They're vital to what we do. But I think somebody said it, either Angela said it or somebody, actually Joan, I think said it. With the way business cycles come and go and the unevenness of contributions, annual contributions, the only way for arts institutions like ours to weather these financial storms is to have a sustainable source of income. And so one of the people who worked most closely with Ann for a number of years is our new executive director. She was vice president of development for many years before assuming the executive director position, which she just assumed a couple of months ago. So thank you, Denise, for all of the work that you have done with Ann and with many, many, many others in raising funds for the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. So I would be remiss if I didn't say one more time, you are going to get folders. I want you to beg you, please, to look through your folders and think about your philanthropic gift and dig deep, because these are the kinds of things that make our symphony orchestra. And while Ann gave us a bridge over gift, the bridge over gift is not going to be enough to bridge over totally. So when you're thinking about your gift, remember that for the next couple of years, we need as much financial assistance as we can possibly get. So thank you. Denise, is there anything else that we need to do today? Okay. Rawson, is there anything you would like to say before we conclude? Thank you all so much for coming. We're very, very grateful to you all.